Hey everybody, and welcome to the PlantStock channel. Today on this beautiful Friday, I thought we would look at 5 PlantStock companies that are considered penny stocks. And at this very moment, I would say that several of them, if not all of them, do look more attractive at this moment, and that's why it's a good idea to take a look at them and maybe have some discussions around them. If you're not familiar with this channel, on this channel we talk about plant stock companies and stocks, and if you want to subscribe to the channel to be able to get news regarding companies like the Very Good Food Company, Beyond Meat, Tattooed Chef, Oatly, to name a few, make sure to subscribe and don't forget that magic bell button. And as always, I would truly appreciate an early thumbs up because it does help with the algorithm gods. Thank you folks, I truly appreciate your help. And for those of you who follow me on a regular basis, I know I've been missing in action for 2 days now, and one of the reasons is my cat Aragon. A couple of days ago he had a high fever. He apparently had an infection. I sat with him at the animal hospital, a veterinary clinic. We were there for a few hours and he had to spend the night there, and yeah, I was a bit worried, but yeah, everything's going now in the right direction. He has some antibiotics and he got some medicine. He's doing better for sure, so I'm really happy about that. But let's go into our first stock of the day, which is going to be EATBF Global Holdings. Right now, ticker chart EATS.CN, and there's an OTC version which my American friends can invest in. You can see that it has been an interesting 6 months. Right now it's under $1 Canadian, but at its max it was up over $4 Canadian back in January. So a lot has happened. It has tumbled down a lot, making the current price in many ways much more attractive, of course, considering that this is still a very new company. But we're going to talk about if this is a company you should invest in. Now, for you who are not familiar with this company, it is a portfolio company that invests into mainly plant-based companies, and in that way either help them on their way with financials or advice, but also basically just hope that they're going to do well, because that will obviously impact their stock also in a positive way. And when they move into a company like, for instance, the Very Good Food Company, Good Natured, recently came into Sire Bioscience. They're part of Eat Just. One of the only ways to get exposure to Eat Just right now is to actually go and invest in Eat Beyond. And they go in there when they have a very thorough process when they're picking their stocks. So in that way, you can feel pretty good about that they know what they're doing, because most of their personnel who's doing this obviously has been doing this for years. But as we know, this stock has plummeted a lot as of late, but this is not anything too weird. It might be a little weirder than other companies, but because I haven't seen this kind of plummet with the other plant-based companies, but it could have some reasons. One of the reasons is we know the stock market the last couple of months, everything that's growth related, disruptive companies, they tend to plummet really harsh. And since this company is only invested, the whole business idea, the whole concept of the company is to be invested in growth companies, right? In plant stock companies mostly. Obviously, they're going to take a beating during a time like this. But there is another thing that scares me about this company, and it is that they aren't very communicative, right? They're not really letting us know a lot when it comes to information about what's going on with the company and why it's plummeting like it is, right? Now, I've actually sent them I think 3 mails in the last couple of months asking them to comment on what they believe is going on. And there's actually some rumors here and there. I'm trying to find out more information about that. Some people in the management team are actually selling off their positions more and more, and wanting some comments on that and what's going on with the company, right? And for some reason, they are not responding to me. I don't know. I have seen in different Facebook groups that some people have heard some information from the investor relations, and I figure it might be because I tell them that I'm a YouTube channel that covers plant stocks, and that my subscribers have asked what's going on. So it might be that they feel like they don't want me to talk about that out loud. I'm not sure. But it is weird. I think it's a bad sign when a company behaves this way. And I also feel it's a bad sign that they don't actually come out with more information about what is generally going on. And something I find interesting too is that they do tend to come out with information regarding their portfolio companies, like here regarding that Good Nature is developing microwavable compostable containers. Now this is news that's like, I think 2-3 weeks old. And that's been an ongoing thing, that when one of their companies, like the Very Good Food Company, if something has been going on there that's good, they'll come out with that news also, but maybe 1, 2, 3 weeks later. So it kind of feels like they're not really up to date what's going on. Why are they waiting so long? And that's another issue that I have talked about, because I have covered this company several times before, that what I don't like, which is kind of a red flag for me, and it's always been, but I hope that it wouldn't be a big deal in the long term, is that basically the whole management team works like 10%. They're devoting 10% of their working time to this company, and that is scary. And to begin with, weren't that heavily invested with their money. And now when we do hear that some of the management teams are selling out their money, well, that is not a super good sign. Now, obviously, this doesn't mean that this company can't do really well long term. They are interesting. I think they have an interesting idea. The concept is interesting in itself. And again, as I've talked about before, I do like their process of finding new stocks. And they are picking really interesting companies out there. But again, we need more information. And if you're going to invest, yes, no doubt the price looks a lot better. I mean, over $4 before, now down to under $1, right? And it's been steadily there for quite a long time. But don't go in too heavy if you're going to start investing here. And then the next company that I have talked about several times, a long time ago though, is Else Nutrition, which is also a very interesting company indeed. It's a plant-based toddlers nutrition company, but not only for toddlers. I do believe they're coming out now with products for teenagers. There's talk about for adult people. And what I do like about this company is that their product is basically a whole foods product, right? As dairy and soy free, gluten free, corn syrup free, and non-GMO. And I do believe this is a company that could do really well long term. And right now, they do look a bit more attractive than they did a couple of months ago. They are around 2.6 Canadian dollars right now. And just 6 months ago, they were up about 4.5 Canadian dollars, right? So it's gone down quite a lot. So it does look more attractive from an investor point of view. Mind you, be a little careful here though, because also here when it comes to price to sales, they are quite high, as you can see here. Here it says that it's about 108. So that's actually super steep, to be honest. Tattoo Chef is around 9 or 10. Beyond Meat is around 20. And they're really high too, but that's companies that have existed or have much larger branding at the moment, even though I think the branding here looks really good. I do believe in this company long term, and they have had some really interesting news as of late. And one of the best things is obviously, if we take a look at their Q1, that they delivered 90% quarter over quarter when it comes to their revenue growth, right? And if we take a look at their Q1 reports, it actually does tell a lot about the company, how well they're doing. They don't have a lot of revenues when we compare to other companies we talk about. It's still a very, very small company, but in their own right, they're doing really well. Q1 2021 revenues about 1.1 million Canadian dollars and 90% growth over revenues, which was about 600,000 in Q4 2020, and an increase of almost 300% versus revenue of 297,000 in Q1 2020. So it looks really good there, and 150% growth in quarter over quarter formula revenues. So that looks good. And we do know that they're entering a lot more new markets out there, not only in the US, but even on platforms on the internet like Amazon. And they've been on Amazon, I think, since September, October, and been doing extremely well there. So there is a lot of things that are attracted with this company. There's no question about that. And long term, even though I think this is a long-term endeavor, right? If you're going to invest right now, because really, even if it's gone down from $4.5 to 2.6 at the moment, it's still very overvalued. But that doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing, because if you're going to be in this company for the next 3, 5 to 10 years, this could be a really cheap price, because with their product, it's not only fully plant-based, it's gluten-free, non-GMO. It's basically a product, and it's without soy. So it's basically a product that any kid out there or any person with time can actually eat, which means that no matter what sensitivities or what issues or whatever you prefer, you can eat this. And I think that's going to be a golden winner long-term. So it is a very interesting company. Just think long-term. And then we have the third company that we're going to quickly talk about, which is a company that I just talked about in this video up here, which is plant-based comfort food from Boosh. So Boosh, as we talked about, is kind of like a up-and-coming tattooed chef kind of company. It's frozen products, right, that everyone can actually eat. Because we know one of the things with tattooed chef is basically that they have quite a few vegan options, but several of their really interesting products is actually vegetarian at the moment. And this company is fully plant-based, and to some extent they also use, like the chef, actually a whole foods approach. So they do look attractive also in many ways. But mind you, this is a newly IPO'd company. It is extremely much smaller than the chef. I don't see them as a competition in the next couple of years anyways. They could be in the future. We'll see. But they're really new at this. They are at the 300 stores right now, which I think is fairly impressive though for being such a small company. They only have a revenue of I think about $150,000 to $200,000, not million, $200,000. And we took a look at their price to sales. It's extremely high. It's I think about 150, something like that. Their market cap is, what I looked at last, around $20 million. So extremely small, $20 million. Like the Very Good Food Company is about 400 to 500 million. This is 20 million. So it's very small, folks. Very interesting. I think there could be a lot of interesting things happening in the future, but right now it's very overvalued, but they could totally grow into that with time. There's no questions about that. But if you do choose to invest in this company, don't go all in, right? Go in segments, invest small parts of your cash flow, okay? That's important. But I think if you have some patience, I think we could see some interesting things happening with this in the next couple of years. And then obviously we have number 4, which is Good Nature Products. When we talked about that a couple of times on this channel as well. And if we take a look at the stock chart, ticker symbol GDNP, which is in the Canadian TSXV. It also has an OTC version and an American version, which is SLGBF, I think. And if you take a look at this, it's also been a roller coaster. It's a lot cheaper than it was only a couple of months ago. Now it's about 1.1 Canadian dollars, and it's been up to almost 2 Canadian dollars. So you're getting a much better price right now. And this is, as I've talked about before, maybe one of the best deals out there when it comes to stock overall, especially a growth stock, a disruptive stock, and a plant-based stock. It's really interesting. It's a safe stock in many ways. It's a company that creates containers of different kinds, holders, cups, things that are plastics, everything. Think about plastic and single items that you use when you eat salads, where you go grab a coffee. I mean, things like bioplastic food packaging, as we see here, compostable takeout containers, home and business products, stretch wrap. I think they have about 400 to 500 different products, right? But what is most interesting about this, and I've talked about it, not only that and this is products obviously that is plant-based, it's better for you, it's better for the environment, And what I mean about better for you is that obviously we don't eat plastic items normally, but when you buy something in a plastic container, whatever that food is, if it's meat or it's a salad and tofu or whatever, a cake, you're still gonna get some of those particles within yourself, right? And depending on how often you eat that, that's going to be really unhealthy for you. But if you have a container or you have a plastic mug that is made primarily by plant-based materials, that is going to be a lot healthier for you and a lot healthier for the planet. I think it's totally in right now to invest in a product like that. There's no question about that, in my opinion. So, and one of the best things about this company, as we know, it has a really good moat. And what I mean about their moat here is that they are connected with several different business groups that they do sell their products to: packaging, general merchandise, commercial and business supplies, industrial and services, right? So I think in that way, this is a really good company, because that means that whatever happens in society, you're going to be golden with this company, because even if the economy is going to shoot down, if there is unfortunately like a war or another pandemic, it's always going to be some kind of group or several groups here that's going to need these kind of products, right? Without a doubt. So that's why I think it is really attractive in so many ways, but also because, as I've talked about before, the price to sales ratio here is really good for such a small company, for a penny stock, right? You saw with Else, it's like around 120 in PS. Even the very good food company is around 100, so which is not unusual when it comes to these smaller companies, right? But this has around 12. It looks really attractive, very safe compared to others, and they've done really well. They've grown extremely well in the last couple of months. If you're uncertain about how much, take a look at this video up here. And this takes us to number 5, and obviously I can't make a video like this without talking about one of our favorite companies on the show, VRYYF, right? And they do look, as always, to some extent, very attractive, but price-wise also, because if we take a look at here, back in, when are we here? Around November, December. If we take a look at the stock chart, ticker symbol VRYYF is the OTC version. It's trading at 3.6 American dollars right now, and it was up at over $7. And we know that the Canadian version, the VEGI version, which is now trading at about 4.4 Canadian dollars. At one point, it was actually up at 9 Canadian dollars, right? So both really high. So that gives you an idea of how popular this company is. And I think it's trading really strong as of yet, because at this moment, like many of these other companies, it is trading pretty high. It's quite overvalued if we count what kind of revenues they had last year. They're basically trading at a PS ratio of over 100 right now, because they had about 4.6 million, right? But they have a market cap that is about 426. Which actually does give it, around 100 to make it easy, around 90 to 100. That is still really high. But since we know that are familiar with the company, it's actually executing a lot of interesting things as we speak. And we know not only the Rupert facility is going to create so much more revenue in the coming years, they're actually about to open up the California facility, I think, later this year, which is going to take it to a higher level. But just with the Rupert facility, there's talk about that within the next year to 2 years, we could probably see at the very least 100 million in revenue from 4.6 this year, which would make the price to sales ratio about 4, which is amazing for any growth company, right? And we know that the whole California thing is about to happen because they just took a 70 million credit facility loan from VEGI Capital, which is going to be mainly used for this facility. And that is good news. But it's actually coming out a couple of news that I haven't mentioned as of late. And that is that they actually partnered with Copper Branch, which is the world's largest plant-based quick service restaurant chain. I haven't fact-checked this, but I guess it makes sense. It has about 40 locations across North America. It really seems good for the company in the long term. I'm not like jumping like crazy because they're going to sell their products at 8 of these locations, which is really good though to begin with, but they're not actually selling their products in the restaurant itself. It's not going to be on the menu. They're going to have a freezer there in 8 Copper Branch locations across Canada starting this summer, which is a really good start. This is obviously good news, but it's not like they're selling the products in the menu. That's not my understanding. If you guys know anything different, let me know in the comments, please. But as I have stated in several videos over these last 7 or 8 months, I've made about 30 or 40 videos on the Very Good Food Company because I'm very bullish about this company. I really expect huge things for this company. I mean, we've talked about this. It's around $4 now, Canadian dollars. I do believe we can see this being an $80 company, an $80 stock company in the next 5 to 10 years. So I'm very bullish about this, and that is why we have to remember the price we have now. At one time, this was up at $9, guys, right? $9. And in the American version, it was $7, right? So basically double where it's at right now, which gives me an indication that people at one time was willing to pay this kind of amount for the company when it actually wasn't producing almost anything comparatively to what they're doing now and what we're going to see in next year. So I feel quite confident that it's going to fly up to those numbers within the next half year to a year at the very least. But we'll see much more with time. I feel very confident about that. All right, folks, that was it for today. I truly hope you got some value in today's video. And if you did, make sure to smash that like button. And if you want to keep getting more information regarding different plant-based stocks out there, make sure to subscribe and don't forget that bell button. Thank you, folks. I truly appreciate your help. And as always, I think you know by now, this was not financial advice. These were just my own thoughts and opinions. It's important to do your own due diligence and invest safe. Hope to see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful Friday and peace out.